Good afternoon, friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. And this week's show is called Death Blows, Dealing with Death, Coping with the Loss of Loved Ones. And this week I have two guests on, one in studio and one via phone guest from Buffalo, New York. I have Aisha Ray. And are you good, Aisha? Can you hear us good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And another my in studio guest is Candace Walker, and I appreciate you showing up good. You good out here? You hear me good? Everything good?
I'm good.
Okay. So this is a show that I think everyone can relate to. This is everyone that's living has had to deal with death, or you will deal with death, depending on how old you are, and you'll deal with the death of loved ones and family members and friends and whatnot. So I have two guests on that has dealt with death um, this year and closely related loved ones, relatives, and whatnot. And I did my show last week talking about my perspective on living and dying and how I saw things. So I'm gonna start off with my in studio guest, and tell me, how does this show relate to you?
The show relates to me because I've dealt with death um, as an adult, and it impacted my family um, because this is somebody that I shared a bond with. We had kids together. We were married. You know, so I think it's important to talk about death,
Okay.
and to me, it's healing. You know, a lot of us don't want to talk about it, or are scared to talk about it, or have trauma behind it, depending on how it happened. But for me, it's healing to talk about my feelings. I have feelings that I never thought I had, or are emerging. So just talking through it kind of helps.
Okay. And with you, Aisha, many don't know you're a long time a listener to the show and also a family member. But you want to tell how this show is connected to what you've gone through?
Yeah, I mean, I've lost a lot of loved ones over the years, but most recently with my mom passing a couple months ago has, that's the biggest impact of my life right now.
Right. Okay.
And just, we all know that our parents are going to get old and pass away at some point, but, my mom's was very sudden. She suddenly passed, it just came out of nowhere. So the pain at times can be very crippling.
Right.
And, I know in a lot of people's minds, like, it may seem like she passed away a while ago, but it's only really been 2 months. So the grieving process is still really, really hard at times, and still just being in disbelief, that she's gone. We still have to live in the house that she passed away in. We took care of her to her last breath.
Right.
So it's very difficult. Like, I don't wish this type of pain on my worst enemy.
Do you find it hard to talk about?
Sometimes it's hard to talk about. I'm a person that don't like to cry, so I kind of keep stuff real close. Just depending on who I'm talking to. And right now I feel okay that I can talk about this right now. At some point I may not. I'm hoping I can get through this show, but yeah, it can be difficult at times.
Right. How about you, Candace? Do you feel it's hard to talk about, or do you find not comfortable, more peace in talking about it?
I do. I don't mind talking about it. It's a journey. You're gonna be grieving every day, all day. Stuff pops up, a memory, a picture, a sound, and it'll take you there. Um, I have good days. I don't want to say it like that. I have my days, you know. But I don't mind. I don't mind talking about it. So
Do y'all find comfort talking about it? Like, do y'all think it's easier? Or do you not want to talk about it? Like, to me, I'm gonna say this about me, and this is probably how I would project on others, how I deal with that things like that. I don't really like to talk. I'm not a person that likes to get phone calls and people say, "Hey, how are you doing today?" Or I would probably close doors with me dealing with something, people that's been close to me that's passed. So I don't reach out to others because I don't know if they feel like I feel. I really don't like for people to call me and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" I mean, to me, it's like, how I'm doing. That's how I feel. And I know others don't feel that way, but my thing is, I don't want to project something that I don't want on other people. So I don't, and I know others don't feel that way. So how do y'all feel about people trying to console you and things like that? I take you, Isha, first.
Sometimes I do want to talk about it, not even just so much talking about it. Sometimes you just need to vent. Like sometimes I don't need you to say anything, but just let me be in my feelings and vent. Or just even you just checking in on me, even if it's a text message, hey, how you doing? Just, are you, do you need anything? Having a good support system when you lose a loved one is so important. And sometimes I don't think people get that the smallest little gesture, whether it's a card, a text, or even just a phone call can go along. Excuse me, can go a long way.
Right.
And when you don't have that support system, it hurts. And from certain people that you expect it from, you expect certain people to reach out to you, and when that does not happen, it can make the pain worse.
Yeah. To actually just to check on you, to see how you're doing on a day to
Yeah,
day
just to see.
basis. Right.
Yeah, see how I'm doing. Send us some food over here. Do y'all need any? Just say, do you need anything? And
Right.
9 times out of 10, knowing me, I'm gonna say no. But just the thought, it just would be enough for me that you even thought about me.
Okay. And for you, Candace, how do you feel like when people, do you want that, the people to call you and to ask you how you doing or to see what you need or,
no, no. I think through the whole process, I've been vocal about how I feel, or if new feelings, or if I feel a certain way, or if I feel a certain way about how he passed. And the whole process with the death was it it was life changing, but in a good way for me.
okay.
Like Aisha said, she's not a person to cry and open up. Everybody think I'm mean, and you
Right.
you don't show no emotions, you don't show no feelings. This hit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was unexpected, and it brought that emotional side out of me. I'm crying out of nowhere. I look at something, listen to something, I just miss him. I start crying. So it brought that side out of me, which is to me is a good thing.
Okay. Do you ever, this is directed with Aisha, do you feel like you have to be the strong one? I know that your younger brother, Ishmael, um, that was your sibling.
Yeah. I'm, no matter, seem like no matter who passes, I always have to be the strong one. I'm like, just for instance, like even when grandma passed away,
Right.
and I was, we cared for her, so I was having a very difficult time dealing with her death. And I was told that, well, you got to get over it. Like, you the strong one. If you break down, then what's going to become of us?
Right.
And I
Right.
thought that was so selfish.
Really?
Like, why am I never allowed to grieve properly
Mm,
when someone passes away? And this is a lot of times why I resort to grief counseling, because I've had to suck up my feelings and emotions because other people are grieving. Now, when it comes to my brother, that's a different story.
right.
I'm always going to be protective over him. I'm 10 years older than my brother. And, I've never seen my brother so distraught. I've never seen him cry so much. So my thing to him is, you are the oldest. You got to suck some things up. And I did tell him, like, I'm strong enough to carry this pain for both of us,
Okay.
whether I really am or not, but I will for him.
Okay. And that's a burden that you don't ask for, but you're willing to accept, and that's taking its toll.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know
And you know
Candace.
what? The one thing my mom did ask of me, and this was years ago. You know, she always said if she passed away, she said the one thing I need for you to do is watch out for my baby boy. You know, my mom never made a difference in me and him. She didn't have favorites, but you know who's your strong child, and
Right.
you know your children.
Right.
And her thing was just make sure you always look out for him. He knew the house would be left to me, and she said just make sure if anything happens, make sure he always has a place to go.
Okay. And Candace, do you feel that you had to be the one to hold it together? Now you have 2 young daughters with Chris.
Hmm.
Um, did man, and I can imagine because it was a accident. It was all of a sudden. And I can't imagine having to, I mean, I've done that with my probably with my daughter when her grandmother died and she was going to come to San Antonio. They admitted her to the hospital. And my daughter, you know, we was asking her, when were you going to get here and all this stuff like that. I was the contact person. But before she could even come, you know, we was in the hospital and she passed. And I had to call her.
Hmm.
And, you know, that was a difficult, it seemed like the phone rang for like 30 minutes because I
Hmm.
know she's going to pick up. But I'm having to think about what I'm going to say. And it never materialized in anything that I thought. It was just like all I could say is she's gone,
Hmm.
and then hearing the screech on the phone and the crying, that like, man, it's nothing I could do. I'm not there. It's nothing I could do. So I can only imagine telling someone younger.
Hmm.
You want to talk about the difficulty of that in having to hold it together? Do you feel like you have to hold it together for them?
No, I
No,
don't.
you
I
don't.
don't. Like I said, well, I mean, it's like we're taught to be strong, and they say that strength is, holding it together. You got to be strong for everybody else, and cry, let it out. And
Right.
that's what I've been doing through the grieving. That's a part of grieving. You cry, you let it out. Now that conversation, I couldn't do it.
You couldn't.
I couldn't do it. I called Ja. I have my village. And
Right.
so I had to call my village, and my village came together and gave that news to my daughters. I know my youngest one was gonna take it the hardest, and she did. My oldest one, she really didn't. She cried, but that was it. Kalia cried the whole process.
Right.
She cried at the funeral, you know, she cried the whole process. We cried together,
Right.
doing the slideshow. And I'm breaking down, she breaking down, but to me it's healing, that's grieving. I'm not sucking up nothing that I don't have to. You know what I mean? I feel like it's healthy. It's what
Right.
we need. We have to take on so much other stuff, you know what I mean? To suck up, you gotta be, this, that, and the third. And it's like, I don't have to.
You don't feel
Start releasing some of this stuff.
right. And you're trying to show the example to them that it's okay
It's
to
okay
cry.
to cry. Yeah.
And I'm probably with you, Aisha, as far as thinking about the strong one. But I remember different instances where my kid's mother called me about a passing of a loved one at that house that they were in, and I called and I talked to my brother-in-law, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm not gonna say how are you doing. I know how you doing, but I'm asking how are you holding up." And the thing I told him was, "Hey, man, you got to be strong for all of them that's there." And he was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." And I know that ain't probably, I don't know how he's receiving that, but I was trying to tell him, like, remind him, brother, you got to be, and I feel like that as men, this is something that, this is what our creed is. We can, I mean, you can cry and everything too, but sometimes they're going to need, or people around you is going to need someone to embrace, and that's how I feel. And I understand what you're saying, Isha, trying to be the strong one, and it's not something that you signed up to be, and that can take its toll on you as well. So with the guest that I have on, I want to give y'all my listeners. I appreciate Ladae Bishop showing up, and Sakina. Walaikum assalam, sister. She gave the greetings to me and Candace, and Kamira, Karima, I'm sorry. She gave the greetings also. Walaikum assalam, sister, and Mrs. Harper. She
Hey,
said,
Garvey.
hey, Candace. And I want to extend the telephone line that y'all can call in if y'all want to say whatever you want to say. K Ben, I see you showed up. She said, hey, the telephone number to call in is 361-405-6111. If anyone wants to voice, come on and talk and say something, come in and out, get up something off your chest or condolences or whatever. The number again is 361-405-6111, and it'll put you on hold, and it'll say until you hear a beep, but we'll let you know when you're on the air if you call in. And Teresa, I appreciate you showing up. She said it's okay to be strong, but you have to allow yourself to grieve. And that's probably where I'm at. If I grieve a different way, and I probably see death differently. I'm and this is my thing. I'm always prepared or prepare myself. I'm conditioning myself for that call. I'm conditioning myself for the call from anybody about anybody. And that's how I go about life. And I know one of the things that helps, or people beliefs, some people believe death and they see death differently based on their belief system, their religion, or whatever you believe the afterlife is, or whatever happens. I think that consoles people in a way, but I know a lot of times it doesn't, people will say one thing, and then when it hits trying to cope, it doesn't matter. You're missing that person. You're going to continue to miss that person. And I never tell people it's going to be all right, because to me, losing a child, losing a parent, a sibling, it's never going to be all right. You're going to forever losing a spouse. It's never going to be all right as far as I'm concerned. Now, if they feel like it's going to be all right, then that's fine, and I'm happy for it. But again, if anyone want to call in, it's 361-405-6111. So did y'all have anything y'all want to say right now? Or y'all want me to ask the next question? I'm gonna read a comment.
I was just gonna say that you're right. I don't think that, especially when the deaths are that close, when it's your children, your parents, even with your siblings. And I remember saying that when my sister passed away, that we will never get over, losing her or her death. I said we just have to learn to live our lives without her. That's all we can do.
Right.
We were going to always grieve her and miss her.
Now,
I feel the same way about my mom. Like, I will never get over her death.
Right.
But I just got to find a way to, exist, exist without her. Because, me and my mom were only 17 years apart.
Right.
We were glued at the hip like Velcro.
Right.
So that's just hard. It's a very hard pill to swallow that she's not here. And I remember saying to her years ago that I don't know what I'm going to do if you ever leave me. Like I said, I feel like when you die, I want to die too. And I think that's the only thing that has really gotten us through is the fact that she didn't want to have a service, memorial service or nothing. I don't know what I would have did if we would have had to have a service.
Right.
I just don't know. I feel like y'all would have been picking me up off the floor.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're supposed to do. I think that's to be expected. I don't like when I hear people say, well, so-and-so acted the fool at the funeral or the range. I mean, people are going to act different. Some people are going to get angry, and they're going to lash out at others. Some people are just going to fall apart, and people will get mad and say, well, that person is making it worse. But everyone deals with everything in their own way. And I'm gonna read a comment from K Ben. She said, just lost my grandmother. Grieving is a process, and people do grieve differently. And she said also, yes, Kev is not going to ever not hurt. And she said, when I lost my mom, the worst thing, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. She said, when I lost my mom, the worst thing what was said to me was she is in a better place. These words annoyed me more than anything. And I understand that. And I never tell anybody that. And I hate when people say that, because that don't mean that I'm in a better place, you know. But I'm not going to get into that. That's religious stuff. But did you have something to say on that?
Oh no. In my opinion, in my opinion, now that I've had a death like this close to me and impacted my, everyday life, I see death differently, and I think we don't normalize it.
Great point. That's
You
a
know what I'm
great
saying?
point.
It's like everybody has death in common.
Right.
So we're gonna know somebody that's gonna die. We're gonna die. We all gonna die. Just we don't know how and when we're gonna die. And so that's how this whole process, that's how I seen it. I'm just like, he was gonna die one day, but the way that he died was not expected. But I don't see death as a bad thing. Um, all those cliche stuff, people they don't say what they gonna say because that's what we've been taught. Um, but I just took it, thank you, and
Yeah.
kept it moving.
I think that's the best thing to do,
Yeah,
because I don't think they mean any.
yeah, you don't know what to say.
Right.
Sorry for your losses, condolences. I don't even know you. I'm
Right.
praying for you, and it's like, is you really? And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, thank you, and just keep it moving.
Yeah. You said a couple of things in there. Normalizing death. Death is normal. And we fail as a
Mhm.
society to normalize the fact that everyone is going to die. So if we did normalize it and people understand it, I think we would treat each other differently
Mhm.
before death hits us. And of course, with our loved ones, our parents, our spouses, and our kids, we're going to treat them with love regardless. But we have to treat them as if you may not see me again.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about they may die. I may die. So I'm going to live my life as if every relationship, everybody always talk about the day where, the Lord raised me up today, woke me up with an alarm clock or whatever. And I'm not trying to trivialize that or anything, but I'm saying every relationship I have, I'm looking at this is a connection that I have. I'm glad to see you, and I'm glad that I'm here to be seen by you. Therefore, I'm going to treat you as if, I'm not going to argue with people over minimal things, things and say things overboard, because especially if I feel like I don't mean it. If I mean it, then I don't care if you die tomorrow or not. And I don't like to say that, but there's some people that just, I may feel that way about. You're out to harm me or my kids or my family, and you mean us malice. I may feel that way. I'm not going to say it, but most of the times, most of these connections that I have, and I tell people this on social media, I appreciate you, and they may think that's like, oh, that's just something you're saying, but I do appreciate everybody that I know, because in some way or another, you've crossed my path, and I feel like it's a connection there. I'm gonna read another comment. K Ben said, death is the only thing that is guaranteed, and disappointment. And you don't want everybody praying for you. I don't anyway. I understand that. Now both of you had the last. I'm not gonna say the last because I don't know whomever else has died recently in your life, but the impactful deaths that you're talking about, they happen in different ways. And Aisha, I know the lingering on. I know you say it happened quick, but it still didn't happen in an instant. It did, but it did and it didn't. And do you see any solace in the fact that you had time to be with her and to spend with her before she passed? Speaking of your mom.
Yeah, I knew that, with when it comes to the organs of death can be fast. I never expected it to be this fast, but excuse me. But one of the things I do find comfort in it, and before it would make me angry when people would say that, oh, they're in a better place. And, like you say, some people just don't know what to say. But with my mom, it was time. She needed to go. Like she was a shell of the person that she was. She was literally skin and bones. And that was hard, having to care for her, seeing her like that. My mom was always such a very strong woman. So to see her, cry out in pain and say, oh, God, help me. And, like when we were trying to move her, it was just everything was painful. Why are y'all doing this to me? Like it would literally break us down.
Right.
And the day she passed, like we never expected it to be that day, but I knew her birthday was like 2 weeks later. I knew she wouldn't make it to her birthday, but we never, expected her to pass that day. We went in her room and we put her oldies on and we was going in there singing with her. She didn't talk much anymore, but she was smiling. Like we knew she was there. She could hear us and she would open her eyes on certain songs and stuff. But so we didn't expect her to pass that day.
Right.
Like it just really like blew us. Like when, Booth, he the one who found her. We were going to get her cleaned up before he left for the day. And I could hear him calling out there like, Mom. And then I get Mom, like the franticness of the call, Mom. And I'm on my way upstairs from work. I'm getting off. And I could hear his feet moving fast. And I'm sitting on the stairs like, oh, God, no. And I can hear him yelling, she gone, she gone.
Right. And Boo is also Ismail, your younger brother that you were speaking about earlier.
Yeah.
And that's got to be tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I ever ran up them stairs so fast in my life. And he went back into a room and we just fell into each other's arms, just sobbing.
Right.
And one thing that kind of bothers me is that he said that he had to close her eyes, and it made me wonder, like, what's she looking for? And he had just was in the room like about 20 minutes, half hour prior to that.
Right.
And so that's one thing that just sticks with me. What's she looking for?
Okay. And now she was a casualty of cancer.
Yeah, she had pancreatic cancer, was already stage 4, and it had spread to her liver and her abdomen. And they said there was no way that she could have possibly known. Like, you don't know with your organs until the pain is there and it's already spread by that time.
Right.
And, it's like something as simple as her complaining of a stomach ache ended up in pancreatic cancer.
Okay. And I know, Candace, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that was just a blow to us when we got, her diagnosis. Never expected it to be that ever.
Yeah. And I think those cases are different when someone dies, because I remember I was at the hospital with my mom going through her cancer, one of her surgeries. And I was getting, I think, a call or something, and I silenced the call. And I think you had called me or something. And I was like, well, I called back. And then when I called, you asked me, did I hear? And I'm like, hear what? I'm like, no. You're like, you haven't been on social media. I don't know if you remember that.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
You don't remember
like
that? And you asked me, had I been on social media? And I said a little bit. And you told me, you was like, Chris, like basically.
I thought I just told you.
No, you asked me, had I been on social media? And actually I saw the incident on social media, but I didn't know who.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you told me that, and I was like, what? And you was like, yeah, that was Chris. And so I'm going back again, like hoping to read something different, like the person is in, emergency room or something. But when I read it again and it said the driver passed, I'm like, damn. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to say. But you told me, you say, look at I said, I seen an article about a crash, blah, blah. You said, you basically told me that's what it was. And then you told me that you told me that was him. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what I said. I was like, I'm sorry. I think I said, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember. It was a whole bunch of phone calls that day. So for those of you who don't know what happened, Chris died, which is my husband. He died March 25th. But we didn't know he was dead until the next day. So it was a car accident. They couldn't identify the body. You know, everybody's looking for him. And we finally called the hospital. And they said the car is registered to him, but he didn't have any ID. I seen the picture. People driving down the highway or passing by the accident, videotaping it. So that's how it became on. And then they called the news. And it looked like his car, but it didn't look like his car. So we was going back and forth, but he was not answering the phone, none of that. So eventually they said the car is registered to him, but we have to do fingerprints to get in. So I already do. So, but that was like the next day after
Right.
he died. So he had already been in the morgue. So from there, I just went into action. I broke down because I'm like, damn, I got to tell my kids. And they're only 9 and 10, and it's like their whole world is finna change. So I'm like, who can I get to tell these kids, So I got my village together, picked the kids up, my phone blowing up, the detectives are calling me, all of that stuff because I'm next to kin. So, but it was unexpected, of course. I had just talked to him the day he died, which was, I had talked to him maybe like 30 minutes before he died. And the conversation we had, he was feeling away. And so I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll talk later. I'm always here, we can talk. But that didn't happen.
Right.
And so after everything was said and done, the investigation was still open. I didn't know. And so, I got more details and more information and, stuff like that. And I just thought about the last time I saw him was probably, he died on was that a Tuesday? Saturday. That was the last time I seen him, and so just some stuff was just confirmation for me. In my opinion, with all the information that I have, I feel like he was tired. He was feeling away. And I don't want to allude to anything, but I just felt like he was tired. Put it like that.
Right. All right. I'm gonna read a comment on Nikita. I appreciate you showing up. She said, "Hey," and then she said, "When I found out I had cancer, I was only 27, and it had already spread quickly. Ended up having an emergency surgery, and we're glad that you're here and you made it out of that." And she said, "Wow, she was sorry. She feels so sorry, Candace." And that's directed to
Thank
Candace.
you.
And Aisha, I know another thing that you had mentioned before about your sister's death, and you said that something was coming up again, and I think what happens it constantly is a reminder, like when you start the healing, and I think something about parole or something.
Yeah, he was sentenced to 20 years to life, and so 20 years was up, and we went, the first round with the parole board, and it was denied, and here we are again having to go through this sometime next week. We'll be doing our calls with the parole board, and it angers me so much that we have to keep reliving this over and over and over again. Like it's like, and for me, it's like him just assaulting her all over again. And it's, you want us, y'all really want to just give this man a chance to walk the streets again. Like that just bothers me so much. And I know in my heart of hearts that at some point this man will be released. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with that.
Right. And what you're alluding to is you had
only 19.
She was 19. You said what about that?
She was 19 when she passed.
And she's a younger.
She was only 19 when she passed. Like this man was in his 30s. Like you had a chance to live life, and she didn't. And it's always going to just be that anger part for me because I feel like we still don't have closure. And my heart always aches for. I hate to call it my stepmother, my bonus mom.
Right.
My heart always aches for her of having to lose a child, and for her have to continue to endure this. It's not fair.
Right. And this was an incident that happened. You had your sibling. She was murdered by someone, and that person's parole keeps coming up, or their release, and the family has to deal with that. And you're fighting for that not to happen. And so it's a constant
Yeah,
reminder.
and
That's what
we
I
have
was.
to.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, we have to, because if we give up, they'll give up. Like, well, the family don't care, but so we have to do this. As painful as it is to us, we still have to go through this every couple of years.
Right. And
So to have
again,
to continue to do this for the rest of my life,
Hmm.
like I can't even imagine.
right, man. Yeah. Condolences for you and her mom and family and everything. I'm gonna read a comment from Barbara. She said, "Lost my parents within 4 years apart, and my husband 5 months ago. And the worst experience I have seen was to watch both my dad and my husband take their last breath." She said, "My husband, on the other hand, was the worst experience." And I'm gonna have to hit see more. I'm sorry, I had to pause like that, but I can't see the whole comment. Um, she said, um,
Watching. That's what you stopped at.
okay, watching him, but it's a lot, and it's
Yeah,
starting to
no.
jump because when people comment, it jumps the screen up. She says, watching him just fade away was too painful to bear. She said, it's a heartache, and I have my moments of meltdown just this morning. And she said, where I just have to let it rain, grieve. He had cancer and it spread like wildflower, and it was hard, but to get through it the best I can. I'll never get over it, but I am coping as best as I can. Each time his picture was shown during the Broken Glass production, which was a play that was done locally by Liberation Center that you played in, she said, I thought I would lose all control of my emotions. I talk to him daily and I try to make the best of life, realizing I too must do the same thing someday, which has helped me accept death better. And wow, she said, better than I ever could have done, missing my babe. So dealing with your husband's death is helping you uh, deal with your inevitable death. Um, wow, I appreciate the comments. And Lede Bishop said, condolences to each of the families. Death of any family member is never easy. And Barbara said, my heartfelt condolences goes out to you all. Um, yeah, did you want to add something?
Two things. So I want to go back to what Aisha said about reliving it. My husband's mom died 2 days ago. I just went to the funeral home this morning. So it's like, here we go again. It's only been 8 months since he died. So it's like, here we go again. So like that's me, reliving it. Funeral arrangements and, all that shenanigans. That's my reliving it. And as far as what Barbara said, and even Aisha, y'all gotta cry it out. Cry it out. I'll be sitting at my computer at work and I'll hear something and I just start crying. It's releasing, whatever pain. It's helpful, it's cleansing, and it helps with grief. The hardest grief that I have is I grieve the fact that my kids don't have their dad and they can't grow up, they can't grow up with their dad. He's not going to be here for the milestones and they're 11 and 10 and 11. That shit hits,
Yeah.
that hits me just even looking at pictures with my daughters, that's what gets to me. But other than that, so I miss them. I'll play the slideshow. The slideshow I had at the funeral. I'll play it and cry and then gone about my day.
Right.
You know, I see pictures of them, I cry and go on about my day. It's releasing, and we already holding enough in, you know? And so it's like, let it go.
Right. Um, man, I think about people that watch death every day in their occupations. And I know, Aisha, you worked at the hospital. I don't know if you still do. Um, but does that change anything? Does that make it easier? Like when you seeing that people die that you may have cared for constantly, and you're seeing that the does it prepare you? That's what I mean. Does it prepare you in any kind of way dealing with death, like in your occupation or things like that?
No, I worked in the ICU, and no, it does not. You know, people would think that we were cold, and because we weren't running around screaming and crying, and we couldn't. Like, our job is to be there for the families, but trust and believe, we'd be in them side rooms crying our eyes out, and at some point, it began to take its toll on me. I was just seeing too much death, and I've worked in healthcare since 1996, and I think I spent about 8 years in the ICU, and while it was very educational, you know, I got to learn a lot and see a lot. At some point, all that death starts to take its toll on you.
Right.
It really does. And then, but it also helps in a way too, where because of my health profession, I'm always thinking from a medical standpoint when things happen with people. So for somebody like me, it's easier to make those tough decisions because I understand more. And that way, it prepared me that way that anything goes on. And that, you know, so even with my mom and my brother, he was like, "You so cold when it comes to death." No, I'm not. I work in the medical field, so it's always coming from a medical standpoint.
Right. Okay.
That I'm not going to be that person that lets you linger on and on and on. I know what I need to do. I'm not selfish. Only selfish people allow their loved ones to linger on in pain. And I get it. Because who knows what I would have done if my mom had to be hospitalized.
Right.
But it's easy for me to say because we didn't go that route with her. We had her here at home.
Right.
So that way it prepares me for death that way. But I also have to think about, you know, with my mom passing, and like, you know, I think about, you know, her husband David, and I know that you know, he's been sickly for the last 25 years, and he made a point to say that he refuses to live without her, and he's given himself 6 months to a year to live, and just recently he's just really going downhill. So I think about that, like, oh God, like, you know, I gotta deal with this.
Do it again.
That's gonna be crushing.
Yeah.
You know, he's been in my life since I was 14 years old. Then, you know, I even think about my bonus mom getting up in age. Like, she has been amazing through all of this with me. You know, anytime I need her, she, you know, whether I call her 3, 4, 5 in the morning, she will pick up that phone. And if she don't, she'll call right back. So she's been amazing. So I think about her too. Like, man, I got to go through 2 more deaths of parents. You know, my biological father passed. And so now it's like, I got to go through this again with parents.
Right.
Like, I don't even know if I'm going to be functional at that time. Like, I just dread it. Especially with David, because I feel like he's going to pass very soon.
Right.
And it's that part is difficult. And it's always difficult to lose any loved ones. If I think about your mom, I think about your dad and what they're going through. Like, it's going to be a long while before our family feels some sense of normalcy or even happiness again. That's just the way I feel about it. Like, it's like since grandma passed 2022, like we were getting hit every which way.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, it's just hard to deal with and cope with at times because, you know, despite of the fact of what I'm going through right now in my life, you know, I'm always inquiring about how your dad doing, how your mom doing, you know, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. Right.
Like, I know how hard and taxing that has to be on you. And, you know, Teresa, I haven't seen your dad since he's left here, but I remember him so well. He was an amazing uncle to me, Vincent and Corinne. So that the things that he did for us has never left my memory. So my heart really does ache for him and what he's going through.
Yeah. I only chuck because I think of the stories y'all be saying. Y'all be like, your dad is so mean. Your dad is so, yeah. But no. You didn't see him when we went down there. When I brought him down that time, we didn't stop by there.
Nope, I didn't get to see him. I saw you, but I was at work.
Oh, that's right. When Vincent was there. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. But I know he wanted to come up there and see everybody. And
Mhm.
and he him being older and knowing your mom and her twin Claudette
Mhm.
and all of them when they were younger, he was
Mhm.
telling, and when we were there, he was telling me stories about them, like when they was
Mhm.
teenage or young girls and things like that. But
Mhm.
like, and what you're saying, when our family is being hit time and time again, I thought of something when I told my daughter about her younger cousin, and this was probably like 15, 20 years ago, maybe. And it was a family
Mhm.
function, and her younger first cousin was a kid. And I said, and
Mhm.
I was looking at him and I said, he's going to be the one that's going to have to watch all of us die if he's fortunate enough to live that
Mhm.
long. And that just was
Yeah.
something in my mind that I told her, that the younger people will see all of us die and they're going to have to deal. And that's what we're going
Mhm.
through. We're seeing all of the older people, from granddad, grandma, parents, uncles, we're seeing them pass away. And then
Mhm.
along with that, you have people that's
Mhm.
our age passing before their time. But that's just dealing with death. And I'm going to ask Candace, how do you prepare? Did you have to prepare your daughters or talk to them about that before the incident happened? Were y'all preparing them, or it just didn't come across to you to do it?
No, yeah. No more than, what they see, TV, whatever. But no, we never had like a sit down, and because never,
Yeah, nothing
they're
impactful had
young,
happened.
I
Yeah,
don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon, him either. But, that's not the case.
yeah. And yeah, like I said, the telephone number, if anyone want to call in, is 361-405-6111. Um, Also, like I did my show last week about death and dealing with death. I'm gonna read a comment from Ladae Bishop because she works in the medical field also. She said, having patients that die hurts just as deep. And I know that she has told me that um, she was close to a patient and this sweet old lady and whatnot. And I'm thinking now, I'm starting to think about family members, how they react with us and going through the funeral process. I remember having to tell a lady that I was with in a relationship with, her family called me at work and they said, "Hey, her dad died, and I want you to be there to tell her." I like, "Can you meet me someplace?" And I'm gonna have her. They couldn't tell her, and she was close to her dad. And I'm like, okay. And we showed up out in public at a gas station. I said, well, meet me here. We're um, concocting a moment to meet with her, and she has no idea. And then and it was her aunt that was with her. And then I showed up and she's like, what you doing here? And I'm like, well, we got something to tell you. And she's like, what? And I'm looking at her aunt like, and she looks like, what? And her aunt she backed away and she just shook her head like, no. And I'm like, I didn't ask for this. But it's like, but then I felt like, okay, I understand. I'm like, I have to be a man. And I told her, and I wasn't prepared to tell her because they didn't tell me I was going to tell her. But I had to tell her. I was like, it's your dad. And she's like, what about him? Like, blah. And I said, well, he's gone. And she was like, what do you mean? And I told her, I said, and I think she saw it in my eyes. And then she just screamed and she fell out on the ground and people looked and they was acting like I hit her or something. And I'm like, they was like, what's going on? I'm like, and then it's like, cause I'm grabbing her and it looks like I'm assaulting her because she's just well. And I'm like, those moments are never easy.
Hmm.
Um, I had people that tell me that they went in the house and found, loved ones dead, whether it's in the shower, and they talk to me and I don't know what to say. And I'm like, man, that's horrific. And I always like I think I've talking to you, Candace, about someone that's going through that with their daughter
Hmm.
uh, with cancer. And I'm like, it's all horrible, but when you have the opportunity to say your goodbyes and
Hmm.
give your hugs, that's a gift.
Yep.
And I tell people that because I've had friends that lost their parents, and they were getting sick. And I told them, like, man, embrace that moment to be able to tell them everything that you ever wanted to tell them, because I also know people that never got to say a word, never got to prepare, and that's also a horrible thing. It's going to be horrible losing anyone, but those moments where they're lingering and you're there able to talk to them where they're coherent is also a blessing as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
And did y'all have anything else y'all wanted to say before we got out of here? Dealing with death and coping with death, death blows, family members. I know, and I'm gonna say this, Aisha, when you brought up our grandmother, Aisha is my first cousin, for those that's not catching on to that. And I didn't know, no one told me. And I found out via social media that something had happened. And I remember, and no one made a call. And we're here in Texas, y'all are there in New York. And I heard Kevin Harris, one of our cousins, he said something about pray for the family. And then I'm like, okay. And I think one of our other first cousins said, pray for the family. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm asking them on social media, and none of them are replying. And then I heard someone else said, my condolences to the Harris family. I'm like, what the hell? And I inbox, I said, what the hell is going on? And I don't know who said something, but one of them finally responded. And I didn't want to hear it like that. I didn't want to go to social media. And I think that that's something that people are doing nowadays. The first thing they do, they run to social media to put news instead of letting family know. And I know it's hard to let other family members know, but I feel like sometimes I get a call from my sister. I don't know. And I'm thinking when I'm answering the phone that it could be that. That's what I'm saying. I condition myself. When I get a call from my daughter, I'm thinking it could be the worst. And then when it's just, hey, dad, this, and this, I'm happy. When I'm hearing the tone, when I'm hearing my sister's tone, because she's called me and had to tell me that my grandmother on my dad's side, something like that. And it may be another call that I'm getting about somebody else. But the worst thing that you could do is just go to social media and be asking people for prayers and condolences, and you ain't even consulted the family.
That's what happened to me. I mean, I knew that he died, but everybody else, it wasn't confirmed. And my kid's teacher got a phone call asking, and my kids are there. He had them on speakerphone. And they're like, what happened with Chris? What happened with Chris? So he had to go in the other room to answer the phone, like, what's going on? So he calls me like, what's going on, to confirm it. And I was like, yeah, but it's not confirmed because we don't have it's not, technically confirmed, but the fingerprints weren't back. But I already knew.
Right.
But I didn't, from that phone call, social media, the whole city knew.
Right. And because Chris worked at a well-known academy here, he was popular there and then popular
within the city.
Right.
He impacted the city. So I didn't make a post until the next day confirming everything, and telling them about, arrangements or whatever. But that kind of irritated me because it went through the city before. Some of his homeboys called me and I confirmed it, but it's just like, wait, or, you can just call me and ask me or send me a text, whatever. But yeah, that kind of irritated me a little bit because my kids didn't know yet and it wasn't confirmed.
Right.
And
people are uncouth with the social media thing because you'll see it on the news. They'll say the family members haven't been notified, so they're not going to release any information. But by us having our own media, we don't understand that that's something that needs to happen too. And with the family, something that needs to happen is before you go to social media, you have to make sure that everybody, especially the closer people. I'm like, I'm one of the grandsons, that I need to know before, and I'm hearing all these people saying, well, my condolences, and I'm looking at their thread. I'm like, this ain't just some, my dog died
Yeah.
type stuff. This is somebody in the family, and it may be somebody on his in-laws. I don't know, but I want to know if it's somebody on my side, if it's somebody that you should be telling me about. And that was one thing that did irk me. I believe that my sister told me about your mom, Aisha, and
Mhm.
we kind of was prepared. And I know my mom was she was going through her treatments, and they was telling her that she couldn't, and she was
Mhm.
trying to forego her treatments to go. And that probably
Yeah.
wasn't been the best thing to do. And they was telling her not to fly, but we was on that teeter totter, like, okay, trying to get her treatments, because you going through this yourself,
Mhm.
and a treatment that she didn't want to do anyway. But it's like she had her close
Mhm.
friend pass the year before. Then she have her younger sister, um, getting sick from it and going through it. And it was a difficult time in the family. And it's going to continue to be, because that's something that's lingering on. Um,
Yeah. So I was the one that you inboxed about grandma. I had no idea that they were posting it on social media. So that pissed me off too when you told me, because
mm,
when Renee called me, well, she accidentally butt dialed me, and I could hear everything going on at the hospital with grandma. So I'm in my own hell over here. And then
right.
I hung up and she called me back, and she was just sobbing like, I just can't. Can you make the phone call? So I wasn't even finished making phone calls before they start posting it on social media. So that hurt my feelings when I found out that that's the way you had to find out, because you should never have to find out a loved one has passed on social media. But everybody always in haste to be, I want to be first to post it.
Or they looking for sympathy.
And that's what happened.
They looking for
Yeah.
sympathy from others, and they're posting it like, and that's the way we find. I didn't know who it was. I know I was asking. I probably text like 4 or 5 people. What the hell? And that was probably my text. What the hell is going on that I don't know about?
Mhm.
And I think, and it wasn't something
You
that
said
she
something like
was
somebody died in my family and I
right.
don't know about it. What's going on? And I'm like, wow, like, I'm not even finished making phone calls and they posting it already.
Yeah, and that's just something that we gotta. That's things that family has to talk about. And I think family should get together and talk about death, talk about getting and I'm gonna say this, get your ducks in order, make your arrangements, burial insurance and life insurances. If you don't have it, I mean, whatever, talk about what you want done with your possessions and things like that. Um, I think we got to get our ducks in order, because I see people. And when I was talking about the young lady I was in a relationship with, telling her dad, she was so mad because she went over there to his apartments and everybody was raiding his belongings, not her family, his friends. And she just screaming like, why, like people running out of there with radios and, whatever. Well, I had lent them, and this type of stuff. And it's no respect for the family. And I've seen and heard those conversations where people start, even family members, bickering about, possessions and what I can have. And I think that that's something, conversations that person and we need to be having while we're alive, or leave some type of bill or will.
It don't matter.
It don't matter.
It don't matter, because you're not here to, you know what I mean? Well, daddy said I can have this. Well, daddy not here. So what you don't, like I've seen that too.
But I'm saying, if I have it in front of everybody, then I mean,
It don't matter.
you don't think it'll matter.
It doesn't. It depends on the family.
Yeah.
I have my little situation, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. If it's that important to you, you go ahead and keep it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just get everything in order. That's what I'm saying. Prepare for it, because it's a normal thing that we all have to go through. And hopefully this show was helpful to some people that's in some form of fashion, or you're able to vent in some way or form, or realize that this is something that we all are going to go through, and we have to get that stuff. You have to condition yourself to deal with it. And I'm not saying it's going to, don't cry. I'm not saying any of that, but I'm saying realize that this is something that we're all going to have to deal with everyone in our family. And I appreciate both of y'all guests for coming on. Hopefully the next time I have y'all on, it won't be under such dire or sad topics, you know. And you have anything you want to leave with, Isha?
I just thank you for having me. It was a conversation that was needed, and you're right. You know, we need to get everything in order. You know that with me working in healthcare, that was something that was on the table all the time with our immediate family, that we talked about that. So this is why, I knew ahead of time. My mom wishes. I know David wishes. So, we don't have to guess or we have places where we keep all of our important documents, so we know where to go. So it got a little difficult with my mom because she started having dementia, so
yeah,
she just moved and packed up a lot of stuff. So it took us a minute to be able to find things, but we were able to find it. But you gotta have, but they are tough conversations to have, but they must be had because death can bring out the ugliness in people.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You want to leave with anything?
And I know people don't like talking about that, but you got to have those healthcare proxies. You got to have those wills, or you got to have something notarized to let people know who gets, or especially if you have more, even one child,
Yeah,
and you have a lot of children like this, or they're going to be bickering and fighting. Or
Yeah.
they're going to be running up in your house, taking things.
Yep.
and even if we don't think that, you don't have to wait till you're 65 years old to start thinking and talking like that, because things can happen to
Mhm.
anyone
Exactly.
at any time. And like Candace said, you wasn't planning on going nowhere, and Chris wasn't either. But then it's put in your lap. Things happen all the time, and we see it all the time, and we always think it won't happen to us. But and treat each other as if this could be your last conversation. Treat each other as if it could be your last dealing, even if it's somebody you got at odds with. You don't have to deal with them, but just say something, whatever you want to say, that if they're not here the next time, that you wish you could have said. Leave everybody on those type of basis in relationships. And some of those things that we're mad at each other about, especially family, it's not that important. Did you want to leave with anything?
Our play.
Hmm?
Our play.
The play?
Yeah.
We'll talk about the play on another time. That's see, we're writing a play, but that's going to be in December. But I appreciate Mondrea. He showed up. He said, "Thank y'all, brothers and sisters, for the conversation," and I appreciate everyone showing up. Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. Peace.